Welcome to the Attachment Point News Roundtable. I've got Ryan Deeds here. Usually I am Nick's co-host, but I've taken over today. I'm the captain now. This is
just running the ship, running the show. Huh?
Yeah, we're just taking it and running with it. So we have Ryan Deeds here, who I was lucky to meet in person, in Vegas about 2 months ago.
It seems like so. I mean, dude, like so much has happened. It just seems so freaking. I can't even believe that was 2 months.
Right? Yeah, we're talking about the infamous ITC TechConnect that took over the insurance world for a week. Nobody else knew what was going on, but us in insurance and insurtech, it was all the rage. So, but yeah, Ryan, how you doing? You're just saying you're fighting the good fight this week?
Yeah, man. I had an agency that got hit by something called Emotet, which was a virus that it was nastiest thing I'd ever seen. I've been in IT insurance for 17 years, and I'd never seen anything like this. And so we actually had to submit a cyber claim on Monday.
Wow.
And the carrier wanted us to pull all the hard drives out of all the computers, put them on the side so we could have forensic evidence. That means that we had to get hard drives shipped in, replace those, image all those over, clean the servers. I mean, it was insane. So I spent about 60 hours in 3 days there, just sleeping when I could, and it was wild. I learned a ton about Emotet and Malwarebytes, so it was very interesting, and I'm glad that we were able to get them back up and running. So it's good. And I'm in Columbus next week dealing with a bunch of assurance strategy stuff. So
cool.
It's wild, bud.
I've been leaning.
How's your deal going with it? You're doing the Broker Brett thing.
Yeah. So I had Broker Brett, and that was a tool that was already in place, and I tried to spool it up to be a brokerage, but it became apparent pretty quick it was a little bit too silly to sell insurance. If you're trusting your financial assets, you want something looking a little bit more structured. So I put together a brokerage called Newport Beach Insurance Center, and just took a little while. State of California, all the documentation, the deeds, the bonds, no pun intended on the deeds. But it took a little while. And as of like Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I think it came through. So cleaned stuff up over the weekend, started putting the word out last Monday. My final typo on there was using the wrong license on my business card, license with the C. It's the final wrinkle, I think. We'll see.
It's never easy. Nothing's ever as easy as it should be, right?
Structuring it was easier than expected. I think largely, Ollie, an offshoot of Heffernan, had some good technology that I was able to use. So on the tech infrastructure side, easy-ish, regulatory, not terrible. But building the business has been a little harder than expected, but that's to be expected. It's insurance, it's sales, it's starting a company. You start off very enthused, and then it's like, what am I doing? And then you get like an email that's positive, and then you're back in the game, and you just try not to be too high or too low and just keep marching, So, yeah, but it's good.
I feel that, man. I've got that little product that I built, and so that's been like an emotional up and down, and seeing. But it's cool because you slog through it. In the middle, it's like, oh my god, this will never be over. And then, like you said, somebody uses it and they're like, hey, this is really neat. And then you're all excited for a little while and you get a little win. And so, a little wind in your sails, and that makes you feel good.
I got to start jumping on it. And that's text messaging that can be recorded in a way that would work for a legal office. So it'll turn a text.
Yeah, right. And so the nice thing about that is, and what's been used, lawyers and CPAs have been picking it up heavily. And so,
crazy.
Because you sign up for it, and then anybody can you just use email to text through it. So I've been pretty excited about it because the velocity of it. My goal is if I can get 10,000 users on it, then I'm done, right? I win.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have used Google Chat before with like a Google Voice number with customers, and it was a really clean way to get interaction. But you're not recording anything there. So, I mean, maybe you're pulling in a van, maybe you're pulling in pictures, but if the customer's ever like, hey, I asked you for this, there's no way to back up whether I did or didn't do something. So, I could see the email being a way.
Yeah, and that's what, our whole deal was about compliance. Yeah, I was thinking, how do you get something that's compliant for all the different industries that need it, that's for the end users? Because, technology doesn't
that's cool.
fail. It's typically the implementation that fails. And so I just, back in the day, we used to do faxing like that, right? You'd
Yeah.
fax through email and you put the phone number and then the
Yep.
fax gateway. And so the texting is just like that. And it's cheap. So it makes it really, really quick to do. And I don't know. I just like having something out there. I've got a couple things that are out there that I was looking through last night and I was like, yeah, it's just neat to see people using stuff, and I just love building. It's so fun.
Yeah. And I think
But
the more products you have, like anything, you get a better idea of how people grab it on traction. Like you get the outside eyeballs, because what makes sense to us, like the way I wanted to set up forums, I was realizing on my website, it's hard to get people there to do the link to do whatever else, so I started using Indio and I really like that platform. And then I found a version for personal lines called Risk Review. So those things are cool. Like I'm loving those little savvy tools, trying to kind of digitize
and
myself.
I like hyper focused. I mean, and I love Indio. Obviously, I do a lot of work with those guys, and I talked to 2 or 3 large agencies this week that are starting down the Indio path. And what they all say is it totally does change the customer experience, right? It makes it so easy for the consumer, and so that's the win. I mean, what I think is cool about insurance right now is how many options you have. You've got platforms coming up, you've got all kinds of different stuff, and the carriers are getting more on board. And so if you have a little technical talent, which is what I would say, I have a little technical talent, and you can do neat stuff, and that's a very big difference than ever before in the industry. And I think it's going to continue to trend that way. So it's like ITC. I couldn't believe how many people were there in the end. I mean, here we are to this insurance technology conference, and there was so much energy, and I just felt like that was a gigantic win, and
That's cool.
Now that I'm consulting with so many freaking agencies, the week before that I was at 3 different agencies, and the next week I'm at 2 different agencies, and so everybody is hungry to figure out how to apply technology effectively.
That's
right?
cool.
The biggest difference is they're not afraid to spend the money; they're afraid to spend the money for wasted effort. Right.
That's the one thing guys watch their numbers. They see money in, money out. If it makes sense, they'll go after it all day long. They'll put $1,000, but if it's not turning a profit, you're not going to humor it for more than a month, 3 months,
Well, and that's the challenge. I mean, the operations team in any insurance agency is pretty stretched thin. And so, if you try to bring in 5 new products a year, you're going to fail because you'll just churn those products because you're not giving your team, especially, when you start thinking about 100 employees. So if you wanted 75% of your employees to leverage X product, that's a hell of a lot of time. You got to sink into the implementation and justifying to that user why you're going to change their flow and what they're going to gain out of it. And so, my advice to companies is always slow down. Don't try to do 5 things. Try to do 2 things. Have good set goals with them, and then let's see if we can drive forward to that. And what do you have already in your stack that you're not leveraging today? Because I think that, when you look at some of the biggest challenges agencies have is underutilized software because we have so many different things. And we don't use them very well. And then, like you said, the principals will churn those, and then they blame the technology, which is always kind of a problem for me because I'm like, yeah, it's not. It's going to be how did you bring it in, implement it, get it used, to have a feedback loop, and they never do. It's bring it in, they put it in place. Oh, now it's working, and they go bring something else in. And you end up just making your users tired as hell of change because there's no real net gain over it. Maybe 1 or 2 will get it, but not for the whole organization. And so that's my advice is always, let's do 1 thing. Let's do 2 things.
I like that. And then use the full bandwidth of the software because I'm bad. I mean, I worked at an old moving company. I just use spreadsheets. You know what I mean? I'll use Google Drive. I'll do a few things. But I'm usually working around systems rather than really learning them. And that's not, it's not good.
Well, I even saw it last week. We bought Malwarebytes to try to fix this problem. We didn't do enough research on how to leverage it effectively, and then we had to come back and reapply it after I spent like 7 hours on the phone with them. But coming out of that, I had such a better understanding of how we should have leveraged it. But had I slowed down in the beginning, really taken the time to figure out the nuances, it would have saved us a bit of time. And so and I think that, like you said, you have a limited bandwidth in each organization. And if you can just focus, I think that's the biggest challenge. Everybody's moving so fast and trying to get so much done that we just marginally get this stuff knocked out. And if we can take a breath, step back, really get it ingrained, that's the win,
put it in just to put it in. What was I going to say? I've been pushing the cyber conversation a little bit. Haven't had a ton of traction yet, but I know they say the market's going to go from like 2 billion to 20 million or 20 billion in 5 years. I think it makes a ton of sense. Like Nick was saying that it's like having fires around you that always get smarter and better. You know, it's and then Ben, I was talking to Ben, he was saying, you know, someone's not going to steal your inventory, but they're going to hack your computer. You know, it's one of the more logical policies. But
yeah, well, I do too. I think the challenge is they're hard to understand, and the exclusions are difficult. The deductibles are high. So, you know, for us, we took that incident 2 weeks ago. Actually, it started on the Monday before this one, before Thanksgiving. And then we thought we had it handled on that Wednesday, and then it reappeared the next Monday. And so we didn't initiate a cyber claim initially because we were like, we're not, it's not going to cost us 25 grand.
Yeah.
When it showed back up on Monday, we were like, okay. And because we had a pretty good cyber policy, you know, we were able to have an incident response team on site by Tuesday to help us figure out all the nuances behind it.
But
cool. There's no legal there. You know, it's just, I was on probably 6 hours, 8 hours of phone calls with the carriers as we walked through, you know, how did it happen? What was the cause? What did they get? Could we determine that at this point? How do we remediate the virus? You know, what's all these different things that they were and then they want, you know, they want another cybersecurity company to come take a kind of give you advice on it and stuff. And so I think that as we mature, those policies will get more clear and the exclusions will be easier to understand, and how we leverage them will be better. You know, I think the best, you know, like some of the cyber carriers now, if you have a policy, they give you a phone number to call before you initiate a claim, so they can talk you through kind of what the easy steps are. And you know, this thing is going to cost a bunch of money. We were down for almost 7 days.
That's crazy.
We were going to roll to our hot site, but we thought we had it knocked, and then we didn't. So we didn't roll. And I mean, and then when you're in the heat of the moment, I mean, literally, I was there for 24 hours between Wednesday and Thursday. I got there at like 2 PM, and then I didn't leave until 2 PM the next day.
And you said
just trying to get
100-person brokerage, like without going into too many details, name a company.
Yeah, it's 100-person brokerage.
Regional. Yeah. The hot site's interesting. It reminds me of the movie Boiler Room. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
You got all the phone set up. You got a little wire.
That's right. I mean, and so we had a cloud-based hot site that was on a co-location where we were replicating data over to.
It's cool.
But when you make that cut over, you're now writing data to that. So then you've got to cut back. You know, and so it's never as easy as you think until you go through it. I think the lessons learned, especially from an insurance agency, are significant because now the producers are going to be so much better to explain the advantage of having X policy or this thing in the policy. And that's what we kept talking about is like, you know, and the staff came together in an amazing way. It was really kind of fun to see the culture and how we had this assembly line set up yesterday morning because I was there from like 10. I went there at 10 at night, and by 10 in the morning, I'd had an assembly line where we were recreating all the computers. And so, you know, we'd put the hard drive in, stick it on one station, image it down. Somebody else would pull it, stick it on another station, add it to the domain, double check the security, and then we would then be able to reallocate that to the users. But as you're doing that, you're trying to get your servers clean and make sure that they're staying. And you're so nervous. So anything that happens, you're like, oh my God, we're reinfected, you know? And it was, you know, from an IT perspective, that's one of the reasons that we're in the game and to try to help our companies be protected from that. And I don't know that there's anything that makes you learn more impactfully than that kind of situation, you know? I'm blasted, but it was awesome.
I would never want to claim. I would never wish for a claim, but I've learned more in dealing with minor, you know, it's personal so far, but issues, you know, really getting in there, talking to the carriers. And like you're saying, your agents are going to be that much savvier on the flip side. I was trying to be a good interview, so I was creeping on your LinkedIn before we got on the phone today, or on the web chat. So Tropicana, you started your IT journey at Tropicana Orange Juice?
I did. That's awesome. Actually, it was, it's funny. My wife and I, we got married in 2001, right before 9/11. And we lived in Clarksville, Tennessee. And so we were like, she was 19, I was 25. And we were like, man, we don't want to stay in Clarksville. So we literally had a dart on a map board, and we had Seattle, Atlanta, or Tampa as places that we wanted to go.
Cool.
And when we threw the dart, it landed in Tampa.
That's funny.
And so we had 2 months of rent, put all our crap in a U-Haul, and moved down to Tampa.
Cool.
And so the first job that I had was like this level 2 tech support, helping people that would go into other people's houses, and the techs would call us and we'd walk them through it. And then right after that, I got a job at Tropicana, which was a huge organization. So, 4,000 people. It was cool because they had the plant on one side. So you'd have like these orange juice conveyor belts, and during the summer it would smell awesome, and during the winter it would smell terrible because of the way that the different parts of the oranges that they would use.
Yeah.
But it was really fun because I always remember there's one big ass warehouse that was super cold where they keep all the frozen orange juice because they don't concentrate it.
Okay.
But what they do is put it in these big ass vats that kind of roll in salt water that's real cold. Wow. And it freezes the orange juice. It takes 6 hours. And there's 70-gallon rectangular jugs. Yeah. And then at the end, they pull them out and they put them into this huge warehouse. Well, the warehouse was so damn big and it was so humid in Florida that you'd have clouds of snow inside the warehouse rolling back and forth, snowing.
That's crazy.
It was the neatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, I went to, in 2003, I got a job at Linear Upshaw, which was a broker in Florida. And ever since then, I'd been in the insurance game. I never thought I would stay, though. After my wife went to dental school, and then I had 10 years of operational experience. Yeah. And then when I tried to go pure tech, I was taking such a cost, like a salary differential, that it didn't make any sense. So I just ended up staying, and now I'll probably be in it until I'm grayer, more gray.
Until there's a digital version of you that takes over your job. Until you,
I keep trying. I'm trying to build that thing, right? Yeah. It's never gonna be as good looking as all this, though.
The natural charisma is hard to replicate. Yeah. So I'm going to be bad. I usually don't look at my phone during these things. I want to see what's going on. If Nick got back to us and if he's jumping in. So it'll be interesting. We'll see if he pops in. We took this rogue. We didn't get clearance from the captain. We just took off on this video interview.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. Content is content, right? And so even if we end up going another direction and getting, and you can put this in someplace if we do it again. It's like with me and Steve Anderson. I mean, when we do our podcast, we kind of show up. We have like a brief understanding what the hell we're going to cover. And then we may pick a topic. Like we picked small commercial. We were together last Tuesday. And we didn't know we were going to talk about it, but it was awesome. It was
I got to listen to that. For my agency, my goal is to work right now probably between 10 and 40-person companies, but eventually 10 and 100. I want to stay super light, super lean, have everything in a briefcase, and try to be above like a Farmers and below, a Brown and Brown, below a middle market, above your neighborhood guy,
Well, I think if you can figure out, the differentiation, not saying it, right? We're different. I hear that crap all the time. We're a different agency.
Yeah.
Like, if you hyper focus on that segment of business so you can understand the problems that they have more effectively than the next company, that's where the win is, right? In my opinion, it's like, that's why you see agencies niching out, because they can have a large niche for social services. And then when a social service prospect calls, your account managers they're going to have an inherent knowledge of the problems that it has. Becomes more profitable, you're more efficient, you're able to service the clients better. That's why I think one of the biggest advantages to an agency is if you have a tightly defined target market, right? Or a target.
Yeah, absolutely.
Client. It's a big deal.
I don't know. I might be letting out a secret right here. Now, I want to, because a lot of my experience has been in personal lines, but a lot of my sales experience was to businesses. So I get the guts of companies. When I did commercial moves, I walked in and out of probably 5,000, 6,000 businesses, if not more. So I want to focus on the small business and protecting the personal assets of the key individuals for that business.
Sure.
And I think that could be the value add, and hopefully I'll get better operationally on the insurance, on the commercial side. But yeah,
well, I think you pick your, as you pick your tools, in any organization, you got to figure out what we struggle with the most in our industry is, what does value look like to the client? Yep, right? Because if it's just a check for the client, hey, I've got insurance, I check the box, I depend on Brett to cover me, that's a different client than, hey, I really want to understand how the insurance product can help my bottom line. And that's, so as you go up the chain, I mean, large risk management companies, our largest risk management clients, they would care a lot about loss control services, then that's where we can differentiate profitably. In that smaller segment, you've got to figure out, what does value look like to them, and then how do you deliver that at scale? Because it's volume,
Oh yeah, and I like the idea of value to the client, because we can think stuff's cool all day long. We can think tools are great. We can be really excited, but do they care?
Always. And that's the thing, right? You a lot of times you'll say, well, we gave the client this product. And then I'm like, well, are they using it? Well, no. Well, then it didn't matter. I mean, you can throw, and you've seen a huge shift in producers from, I've got 30 things that I'm going to give the client. That's a new producer coming in. They've got to a producer that's seasoned, that spent some time in a specific industry. And they say, these 3 things out of our tool set are going to make the most difference for this client. And they can articulate the client's business problems and then match the solutions that you have in the agency with the problems. And then a feedback loop on that.
That's cool.
Consistently coming back and saying, okay, we don't see that you're leveraging this today. How can we show you how to it makes an impact? And because you've spent time in that space, you have a better understanding. That's, to me, where you turn into that trusted advisor that becomes super sticky, that they won't leave for like a 10% premium discount,
It kind of reminds me of when I used to sell with my dad. He'd always talk about paying attention to the room and the furniture. If they got cheap furniture, sell on price. If they got nice stuff, sell service, and then look for like bonding points if they have golf stuff out, whatever, But that was his whole thing.
That's right.
You got to read the character, read the room.
Always. Yeah, no, I agree with that totally. I mean, I think it's one of those things that as any producer matures, what I see for a successful producer is being able to understand the pain. Like, it's funny, one of the best producers I've ever known, he didn't know anything about petroleum companies, but he went to a petroleum company, he pitched the product, and they said, well, what are you going to do about shrinkage? He said, I don't even know what that is. He didn't get the account, but when he got back to the office, he researched a ton about shrinkage. Well, immediately he went back to another petroleum company, said, this is what we're going to do about shrinking. Yeah, that's right. And so then they were like, well, obviously, our industry. We're going to do business with you.
That's cool.
And once he saw that, he started trying to look at nuanced problems for the industries that he wanted to approach, and then being able to talk to that. Not, a quote for you and get you some confidence over that. It's not just throwing a whole bunch of stuff out there and hoping it sticks.
I just know shrinkage from bars and working in restaurants. When you got inventory that's shrinking or growing,
that's exactly right. Yeah. And so, like, for them, it was like employee theft is really what they were considering it, right? And so employee theft, because these petroleum companies would own all these gas stations. And so it was a significant portion of their business problem. And so he was able to show how employee benefits, well applied to an organization, built loyalty and decreased shrinkage. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like, you give them the gas cards, you kind of hook them up properly, you have a write-off for yourself, and then you're taking away the cookies that they're getting somewhere else,
That's right. Cool. Exactly right. I mean, and so he was able to convince companies that wouldn't traditionally carry good benefits to carry benefits because of the long-term ramifications of that on other aspects of the business that would not be apparent to most producers, right? If they didn't spend the time.
If you take care of your guys. Sorry, that's like a hot point. If you take care of your guys, they're going to take care of you. They're going to stick around. The workers' comp claims are going to be lower. Like, yeah, it's huge, especially today when people are struggling with hiring and finding talent.
I mean, I've seen a lot of producers. Oh, hugely. I mean, that's the biggest problem that folks are facing right now, I think, is that talent, that just enticing people to come work for you in all industries.
Having to make a change.
Yeah.
And then kind of lastly, Lifeguards been fun. We've been working away still, just doing our best to, learn how to gather information, see what APIs are out there, what aren't, try to deliver quotes in real time. Stuff will work for a while, then somebody will tweak a website, and then you kind of got to hop back in there. But it's been really fun. Somebody found us the other day because they Googled plaid for insurance, and they thought it was pretty cool having somebody track us down that way.
Yeah, what's up, Nick?
Let's see if I can fix the panels. I may have recorded the wrong style panels, but we're doing pretty good. Outside of the wrong recording style. Okay, now we're
learning on the fly.
It's sort of like when your dad shows up after you've been throwing a party. You're like, uh-oh. Hey, hope everything's cool. What we're doing.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good. Sorry about that.
No, we took it rogue. I apologize. I just went for it.
Christmas tree shopping.
There you go. There you go.
That's actually what I've got to do. Like we're heading to a winter festival. It's pouring outside, so I don't know how it's going to work. And then I find a Christmas tree, so we can knock that out and decorate it tomorrow. So it should be fun.
So what have we been talking about?
I haven't seen you in a while.
Sorry, Nick. I'm sorry.
Cyber?
Yeah, it's a lot of cyber. Ryan's actually been putting out a crazy fire. He was on site somewhere for like 60 hours in 3 days, dealing with a major cyber issue at a 100-person agency. And
wow.
Talked about that, talked about selling it, talked about, what I've been learning so far. And it's been fun. We haven't gotten too far off topic. We talked about Tropicana orange juice and its production.
Yeah. Been all over.
Vitamin C solves all kinds of problems, even cyber.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling that thing, Nick, was crazy, man. I mean, I've been in the IT game for a while. I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, it was good that we had a good cyber policy. We were able to get, somebody to come on site, to a security person to come on site pretty quickly. We actually had to initiate the claim, which is always a pretty large deductible. And then they wanted us to pull out every hard drive in the damn infrastructure so they could put that to the side, so they could do forensic analysis to determine, what, if any data was lost, what data was lost. And so we were pretty much down all week. We got them back up yesterday by about 3 o'clock. But it was rough. It was a great learning experience though, for both the claims side and the remediation side. So it was wild.
Yeah. So do the cyber policies are they actually valuable?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on what you've got. I mean, for an agency, yes, it was extremely valuable because once we initiated the claim, we were able to get somebody to show up within 12 hours to help us navigate. I'm not a security expert by any means, and I would hate that freaking job. What a terrible job, from an IT perspective. But that, without having that person there as the authority on what we needed to do, a lot of it was guesswork. And so it was so helpful to have that individual there. And of course, all the money, I mean, these are not cheap people. These are $500 an hour, $400 an hour folks that the cyber policy will cover for you. There's a lot of meetings with the carrier. But so in that instance, yes, I think it was very, very helpful.
So I don't even know this, so you guys can both educate me. When you buy a cyber policy, what generally comes in that policy?
It all depends so typically there's a bunch of questions, right? How many records? A lot of it's based on the number of records and the kind of data that you have, right? And for us, every year we would have to fill out this form. We have, X million of records, and it has this much, you have socials. And if you're a brokerage, you've got and employee benefits, you have a ton of private data. And so, with us, we would always opt to have like an incident response team, a hotline number. And so the problem is so many times in the cyber policies, the premium is very low. If you're working with like minimum underwriting requirements, which is where we see a lot of the cyber policies going to, if you check these 5 blocks, you get this very standard template. And I don't know if that's what you get is super helpful from that. I know with the policy that we had, it was awesome. We were on the phone with the lawyer instantly. They could tell us what our overall risk was. They helped with the reputational issue because, we had a carrier that for that agency that got emailed from when we got data out of there from us. And so when you initiate the cyber claim, now you have protection to help you with the reputation, PR firms, helping communicate to your clients, helping determine your paths. I mean, so without that, you're just kind of lost. I mean, you're kind of throwing stuff at a dartboard. And so I was damn glad that they had a good policy.
Yeah, even the discovery period afterwards, like you're saying, kind of going in there. But yeah, it's supposed to be a hotline. It's supposed to be help with third-party issues, kind of claims. Where they get kind of funny and nuanced is, one company, for instance, Paladin, actually, who we'll talk in a couple of weeks, they have like a fake phishing test. So they'll email all your people so you'll click on bad emails. Other ones will ping your network to see for vulnerabilities in your servers. So you have I've heard actually there's 50 different cyber policies, but they all come back to 5 different kind of core companies. And then you have people putting all these little layers on top of them, all this kind of frosting on top to, kind of spin them up a little bit. But yeah, it's super interesting. I haven't talked to anybody who's had a claim yet. So it was really different to kind of hear that whole path.
Yeah, I mean, and for us, I think that it was a critical differentiator to have a good cyber policy. Of course, that organization had a very robust legal department already. And so the legal department actually ran the whole thing. Once we knew we were initiating it, that legal department was really the main conduit. And so like Nick, they gave us, we could pick our own security specialist. So they knew somebody that they brought in, and then the carrier forced us to get a second opinion. Well, that was awesome. I mean, it was a little nerve wracking because you had to have like this 3-hour meeting in the middle of this freaking firestorm. But
like that meme, everything is fine. The little dog drinks the coffee and there's just flames everywhere.
Right. Yeah. And then they helped you lay out a path to, hey, do X, Y, Z, to get it done. Because at that point, you're just lost. I mean, systems are down. The principals are freaking out. Nobody knows what data is gone. That is the time that you do not want to have to be trying to figure this out on your own. You want to be able to lean on somebody else. And typically, I haven't been a real big proponent of cyber just because the exclusions that are there are nebulous in a lot of cases. But I was because they were looking at me as the expert, and I'm like, I'm not the guy. I can help get this stuff enacted, but I don't spend my life in security. That's not I need somebody who's a specialist. And for them to be able to get somebody of caliber that was there that quickly, that was a huge advantage.
That's cool.
What do limits go for? Like what's a typical capacity? I
think started $1 million from what I've seen.
It depends, like on those minimum so what you see a lot of these companies doing targeting small businesses is they have these minimum underwriting requirements where your limits are going to be much lower than if you have something that is not like slot rated. And so for us, for that company, I think that they had like a $5 million spend. Cyber security firms know that you initiated a claim. You start getting calls left and right from them because they see all this money that's out there that you can leverage if you choose them as a provider. But we, you know what I'm saying? Because you've got the PR aspect of it, which is probably the biggest. Because when you think about cyber, you've got your one problem, which is how do I get back out? The bigger problem is, do I take a reputational hit by a loss of trust with the organizations that either I infected because they used our contacts to get over there, and how do we help those companies navigate through that? And so the long-term impact can be super, super scary because like if they jacked your system and they actually, the guy said this word I thought was really cool, exfiltrated your data. If they exfiltrated your data, then you may have months of stuff happening as they leverage that data in more intelligent ways. And if you can leverage your carrier to provide a lot of support there, it's a way bigger help.
Feel better, and we don't want to hold you too long. We got on here earlier, so you can go have some Christmas merriment.
It's all good. It's going along anyways. I appreciate just being on it, Nick. It's good to see your beautiful face. It's been a little while. That's right.
It's been a while. Right. I know we haven't talked in a while, so we should catch up.
Absolutely,
it was good seeing you,
brother.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, guys. I'm gonna go get a Christmas tree and then go to a wet winter festival. So I'll talk to y'all soon.
We'll see you guys soon.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Peace.
Okay.
All right.